Alright, so we're deep in the breeding season, and most often during the season I miss ovulations, but very seldom am I surprised when I see a female sitting on a clutch of eggs. So in this video I'm going to talk about the different things I look for within my collection that help me to know that a female is going to lay even if I miss the ovulation. So stay tuned. What's good? I'm finally back with another video. Made a few changes to the channel, but ultimately I'm just documenting my ball python journey that I'm on and taking anyone who's interested with me. Alright, so before I even get to the visual or behavioral things that I look for if a snake's gonna lay, the most reliable method of checking is to palpate. Palpating meaning to actually feel. See, people who know how to palpate know what I mean when I do this. But it's manually feeling the underbelly of the snake to feel the eggs or follicles. What I've noticed in my time is that follicles will feel round, whereas if the snake is ovulated and you're feeling eggs, it's gonna feel more oval, and with follicles that feel hard, the eggs are gonna feel kind of squishy, almost like a water balloon. Thing about palpation is that it's probably the hardest method. When you know how to do it, you know how to do it, but for some people it's difficult to learn, it takes some time to learn. Also with really big females, sometimes when you try to palpate, they're so big and thick that you just can't feel anything. So palpation to me is the most reliable way of knowing if a female is gonna lay, but we're still gonna get to some other stuff that you can look for in case you're not able to palpate. Alright, now before I even consider the possibility of a female laying, there's certain behaviors that I want to see from the female, and this is why I always say it's important to pay attention to your snakes. So during the season, as we know, as the follicles grow, the female is gonna see cool, you're gonna see ball wrapping and all that kind of good stuff, and we know that's a good sign of follicular development. What you're also gonna see is your snake smashing food, and that drive, that feeding drive is gonna be at a heightened state, and they're gonna want food. They're gonna be smashing rats more aggressively than usual. You may, a lot of breeders feed extra at that point, but that's a whole another conversation about. So when I see that cool seeking behavior and that heightened feeding response, I know that things are going well within the season. Next, what I'm going to look for is the female leaving the cool side and really focusing on her time on the warm side and go off food. If these things don't happen, or I don't see these behaviors in my snakes, then more often than not, I'm not even going to consider that she's going to lay. These things are a prerequisite, in my opinion, for any snake laying a healthy clutch. Before I continue with the last sign that I look for, I just want to preface this by saying missing an ovulation isn't a sign of bad keeping, or that you're a bad, you're a bad breeder, you're a bad reptile keeper. I have here maybe about 60 females. A ovulation is gonna last maybe 2 to 3 days, so not to catch ovulations, for me, more often than not, I don't see them, and it's very seldom to actually see an ovulation. So in my opinion anyway, I don't feel missing ovulations is anything bad, and none of us as keepers should be beating ourselves up over missing an ovulation. I missed the ovulation on this girl, but she at one point was bowl wrapping and cool seeking. Feeding response was really aggressive, like I like to see. Went off food and started heat seeking. I missed the ov, but I do know when she shed, and I'm assuming that was the prelay shed. Since then, I've palpated her and definitely know that she's gravid. And based off when she said she shed, she's due to lay in the next 7 to 10 days, I would say. But again, what I'm looking at that's indicating, or what I'm seeing that's helping me to know that this girl has ovulated and is gravid and is gonna lay, is the behavioral aspects of what she's doing. So she was cooling, feeding heavy, moved back to the heat. When they've done all those things, you know it's a really good look. All right, so the last thing that I look for is the female laying in a tight coil, as we see here with this lightning pied. What I like to see is, it's actually a couple things that I'm looking for. One, sitting in that tight coil with the head in the middle. Sometimes you will also see the tail in the middle, but it's really that tight coil. And the second thing that I like to see is this ridge that you're seeing here on the dorsal. Right here. Oh, she doesn't seem that happy. But this ridge that you're seeing on the dorsal. I find that the closer the female gets to laying, the more prominent that ridge looks. And you can see with this girl, it's almost like a 90-degree angle from the side and the top of the body of the snake. But that deep ridge, when I see that deep ridge and I see it really getting pronounced, that tells me that that female is due to lay soon. Coming back to the pastel desert ghost, I'm seeing the same thing that's telling me this girl is gonna lay. So for one, head, and in this example, the tail in the middle of the coil. And again, you can see the ridge back on her. I don't want to disturb her too much, but you can see the distinctive ridge. It's almost, again, almost like coming up and straight across is almost like a 90-degree angle. Yeah, the distinctive ridge that you're seeing on the female, again, telling me that she's gonna lay. Of course, both animals, both the desert ghost or pastel desert ghost and the lightning pied, have been palpated, and I was able to feel the eggs, so I know for sure that these girls are gravid. But neither one, I missed ovulation on both of them, and it was through the signs that I'm seeing and showing you that let me know that these girls were due to lay. So here is an example of a female that wasn't bred this season. You can see she is sitting on the heat, not in the tight coil that you saw with the lightning pied. And if she's going to cooperate with me, when you see the back, nowhere near that distinctive ridge that you are seeing, or sorry, that you saw on the lightning pied. It's more rounded out and smooth. Also, if you notice, now that I've disturbed her, she's moved, but if you notice the positioning of the head was off to the side, not dead smack in the middle like what you saw with the lightning pied. Okay, so this is the last example that I'm gonna show for this video. This female I actually did see ovulate, and she went through her prelay shed about 4 or 5 days ago. If you notice, she is on the heat, but the ridge on her back that I was showing you with a couple of the other animals isn't as pronounced. The reason why it's not as pronounced, this girl is, I would say, 25 to 30 days away from laying, whereas some of those other animals, or the two other animals that I showed you, I expect them to lay within the next week. At the end of the day, you really got to pay attention to your snakes. They're going to show you behaviors that are going to tell you where they're at in the breeding season or the progression in the breeding season, and you really got to pay attention and know what's going on with them, and it makes it a lot easier in the end. So that's pretty much my thought process and what I'm looking at during the breeding season. I'm also paying much closer attention to sheds, and I'm usually able to predict when all my females are gonna lay, even though I missed the ovulation. So hopefully you like this video, you found it informative. Even an experienced breeder hopefully the experienced breeders out there that are watching the video got some little tidbit or some little tip that might help them. If you like this video, don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll be back soon. Peace out.